Attention Guilford County, are you ready for positive change in our schools? Introducing Bill Goebel, a true champion for our students, parents, and teachers. With years of experience and unwavering dedication, Bill Goebel is the leader we need on the school board. As a current member representing District 3, Bill is already making a difference, shaping policies that benefit our community. Vote for Bill Goebel for school board, and let's build a brighter future for Guilford County together. Paid for by the committee to elect Bill Goebel for school board.
Coming up in this episode of Finding Common Ground.
The question I have, all these words are human-made. And it takes human beings to decide if they're good or bad.
When do we allow a word or phrase to evolve, to Tim's point, that where the N word with the ER versus A, or to Kelly's point, said black people took it back, do we allow it to evolve?
There are two sides to every coin.
How do we deal with racial issues when they affect relationships?
Finding common ground on all those issues that we come against.
There's black and there's white.
And I think as Christians, we have to learn how to get together because we're not in heaven.
I've met more interesting people just by God just bringing them in.
Republicans and Democrats.
But a lot of times when it comes to race and it comes to culture and it comes to perception, even as Christians, we don't always understand. We look at it through our lenses.
There's Bill.
I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland called Parma.
Any black people in Palmer?
There was not one.
Not one black person,
Not
Bill?
one.
Come
Not
on, Bill,
one.
you got to have one, a
Nope.
token black person, a token.
And there's Odell.
I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, public housing, single mom, divorced single mom of 4 kids, and I came up through segregation and all that kind of stuff.
If a black person drove through the town, the police would stop and escort them out.
Bill and Odell are finding common ground.
A part of what we have to do is listen to each other, find the common ground, and question, not questioning you like you're on a witness stand, but questioning you for better understanding.
Father God, we just come to you in the precious name of Jesus Christ. God, we just thank you for grace and mercy, and we thank you for common ground. God, continue to help us and keep us as we continue to work through our challenges and our differences. And, it's just hard to hate up close. And when we get up close, we realize that we're not as different as we think we are. God, we continue to ask, God bless America, the greatest country in the world at this time. In Jesus' name we pray and believe. Amen.
Amen. So, hello, everyone. My name is Timothy McCain. I started out in the radio business. I had my own radio show called Let's Talk Sports with Timothy McCain on a local radio station, 105.1 Live. Started out by Derek Watson. I also had a show called Believe in HBCUs where I cover African-American collegiate athletes and coaches. And then I made a movie about a black Shakespearean actor. It's called Can an N-Word Do Shakespeare? And I also produced an album, a hip-hop album called The New Black Superhero, which you can listen to on SoundCloud. The artist's name is Lorenzo Murphy Jr. So that's a little bit about my background.
So as we continue to pray, can an N-word do Shakespeare? We're going to talk about that because this is a long-awaited show. Kelly's been talking about it. Bill's been talking about it. Odell, the good-looking black guy, been talking about it. Bill, do you have anything to say or pray about, sir?
Yes. Thank you, Lord. And thank you for the podcast so that we can discuss these kind of topics that are a bit controversial. Thank you for having Kelly and Tim here with us. And let us go forward with a great show. Amen.
Amen. Anything for you, Big Money Kelly, just so you all you can see him on TV. Kelly has a tan, and Kelly's tan look like my tan. Kelly, how do you get a tan, my man?
I thought you guys were brothers.
I was thinking that maybe I should break out from the norm and do a prayer and make sure that I pray that I don't say anything wrong today.
That might be a bad idea.
If I'm going to pray to the baby Jesus, I'm going to pray that I don't say anything bad.
Yeah.
Was that
Amen.
What was the movie? The Talladega Nights?
Yes. Well, hey, listen, everybody's been asking the question. Odell, you all promised that you are going to do a show on the N-word. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to lay it out like this. Odell is a almost 64-year-old, good-looking black guy. So I invited someone else. He's not as good-looking as I am, but Timothy. Timmy's 29. He stated early he did a documentary on Can an N-Word Do Shakespeare? Tim is in and out of the hip-hop world. Tim is a couple generations younger than I am. So he brings a whole different experience to this whole N-word thing. And of course, we have Bill over there, and Bill is the professor who's the man in the plan. That's my main man. And we have Kelly. Kelly is my brother from another mother. I just like Kelly, and Kelly's the man. So we're going to start off by just saying, why is the N-word so offensive to you, Odell, and offensive to so many other people? And then white folks like, why do y'all get mad if we call you the N-word, but you all call each other the N-word? So Tim, help the audience understand, why do we get mad at white folks for using the N-word when we use the N-word?
So what I would say to that is, and please, for everyone listening, please check out Can an N-Word Do Shakespeare on Tubi.
Are you gonna spend the whole show promoting your little raggedy movie?
Hey,
Shameless plug.
I'm just saying.
There's nothing wrong with the shameless plug.
Nothing wrong. Exactly. There's nothing wrong with the shameless plug. So this is what I'll start.
What's the website?
It's on Tubi.
Okay.
So this is where I'll start with. All right. So obviously there is a generational gap of, okay, well, why is it that we are now, some people are accepting the word? Now, obviously, in the hip hop culture, what you have is people, they basically have flipped the meaning of the word. Instead of it being a word that's offensive, they made it to where it's endearing, where it's like, my N-word, my brother, you know what I mean? That's the meaning of it. But I'm going to be honest with you. I grew up with my parents, and they hated the word. It wasn't really until I went to college, actually, when I went to community college, where I had a friend of mine, and he would say it every other word. Every time I hang out with him.
Where did you grow up, Tim?
I grew up in the Raleigh-Durham area.
Okay.
Yes. I was born in Richmond, Virginia, but lived most of my childhood in the Raleigh-Durham area.
So, Tim, to Kelly's point, does it matter if you are middle class, upper middle class, black person, or you like, no, when black folk get together, not all, but some, it's like, yo, da, 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 all this kind of stuff. And you haven't been poor a day in your life. So how did you deal with that street level vernacular or narrative?
So that's an interesting point. Well, you'd be surprised. I didn't grow up rich my entire life either. I grew up in more so like a wave. Let's say wave. That's what I would say. But I really do believe that, to answer your question, is there a classism issue when it comes to the N-word? Potentially, yes. I would say absolutely there are people who might not. Matter of fact, I do believe that there are people who, and I'll give you an example from my movie, Can an N-Word Do Shakespeare? Most of the people who had issues with the word were people who would be considered of the bourgeois class. They had a real issue.
I have an issue with it. Am I bourgeois or bougie or what?
I mean, if you were to look at your
the bourgeoisie were the French middle class, right?
Yeah, I mean,
bougie or bougie is the black middle class.
So it's like, well, so if depending on your economic situation, I had a lot of family members who actually had an issue with the word and issue with who I made the movie about. But my perspective was, here's a man, his name is Craig Scott, who was a black revolutionary Shakespearean actor who robbed banks, put the money into black banks. He funded black culture, arts, and plays. He employed black people. And he had a play called Can an N-Word Do Shakespeare, breaking the stereotype that black actors can't intellectually perform it, because they can. And so that was really what the meaning of the movie's about. He actually hates the word himself.
Well, but hold on a minute now. You said something, at least I overheard you something before Kelly jumped in. You said it's the difference between the word with how it ends. Can you explain that to the audience?
Yes. Because
I didn't even understand that. And I'm black. I've been black my whole life.
So basically, if we have the ER, that's the offensive word.
Okay.
But if you have the GA, that's something that for black people, for only black people. And to be honest with you, the word really shouldn't be used regardless of what your racial background is.
Okay, hold on a minute. Let's bring in our resident white guys to the table, because they're like, what in the world? ERGA, what's going on? So Bill, help us out, Bill. Help us out, Mr. Professor.
Well, I think
Historical context.
Yes, I did some home,
From where is he from? Where's Bill from?
The
Parma,
town
Ohio.
in Cleveland where they didn't have any.
They didn't have no black folks, whether it was ER or GA. It didn't have none.
Was it Parma or Parmer?
I like that.
It was no. So I did some research and straight talk about the N-word. And one of the things I found out that a professor by the name of Neil Lester from Arizona State actually did a college level class on the N-word. And people were wondering, how could you do a class on one word? And so he started out with, what is the history? Where did it come from? How did it start? How did it evolve? And it started out in the 17th century as a descriptor for Negroes. And with no value attached to it, just a descriptor like a white person or black person. And he says it evolved to the N-word, ER, as intentionally derogatory.
Go ahead, Bill. You can't ER. Go ahead, Bill. You got some soul in you. Go ahead, go.
ER, baby. It's happening.
Okay.
It's happening. All
right.
Give me some ER.
Okay.
And that's not emergency room, by the way. And intentionally derogatory, it has never been able to shed that baggage ever since. And but then it says it's evolved into a word that black kids in particular use for the GA as an affection. As an affection. And, I'm trying to think if there's any other word that I know that would be derogatory and would be also used as a descriptor to mean my buddy.
So if I call you a cracker or a cracka, is there a difference?
Only if you have a crack.
Exactly. But you know what's crazy though? Because what I found, because when I was in community college, because I went to community college and then I went to the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, I actually heard two of my white peers call each other that in passing. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I was taught, it's funny. I'm actually shocked when white people would call each other that.
Yeah.
Because it's because to answer your question, I don't think there's any other group that goes around calling themselves an offensive name. They, you just don't, they might do it in passing every once in a while, but not to the same level that Black culture does. And I do personally believe that even though a lot of people believe we've taken over that word, we have to train ourselves not to use the word.
Yeah, I think there's like a period, like you contextualize it, right? And you say, okay, it was like an atomic bomb word. That's why I always use it. I always think of it as like an atomic bomb. It's like the last, you say it, there's an explosion. But then there was this period where it was this horrible offensive word. And then Black people reclaimed it. They took it back. They're like, we're going to use it as a term of endearment. And so now it's like, you don't use it, right? I mean, it's even become so offensive that you talk about your parents that they said, please don't use this. I've heard other people that are around Black people and they're using that and it makes them uncomfortable. And so you've kind of reclaimed it. And then now do you enter that next stage where now, okay, you own it. Now let's put it to bed. I think I remember it was a long time ago, but didn't the NAACP like try to bury it? Like they did, they put it in a casket and tried to bury it. It's been a minute, but I seemingly remember something to that effect. We'll have to have Professor Google that and see if that's the case. But maybe it is time to bury it. I don't know. From my perspective, yes, I think that I don't think there's ever a context where you use that word. I don't care if for white people, Black people, I don't get a vote. Like nobody's like, calling me up from the Gallup poll saying, hey, as a white person, what do you think about using the N-word? I'm like, I don't think anybody's calling me asking me that. But if they did, I would say, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to tell my kids not to use it. And listen, I have young children and all I hear is hip hop in my house all day, all night. They get in my car. They were driving my car. They have all the presets. And so they're around it. And so I often wonder, like, like in the context of hip hop, you're singing along, with the words and then you get to the word and then like,
you gotta stop.
Do you stop?
No. That's a good point though, because this is what happened to me years ago. And then I'll talk about the other night, but I don't want to. I think this conversation is so helpful to so many people. I'll be at a gas station, pumping gas, minding my own business, and a car come up, a pickup truck will come up, just blasting this hip hop song. and a young white guy jumps out, look like a good old boy. And you're like, Odell, that's so biased, prejudice, and stereotype. You're absolutely right. You all pray for me because I do have biases, prejudice, and stereotypes. So just pray for me. But so the white guy get out, and the word is just blasting, and N-word just blasting, and he's just nobbing and bobbing to the music and pumping his gas. And the young Odell's like, no, man, you offensive. And he's not paying that word any attention. He's not paying the word any attention. He's just the beats and everything. And I refuse to even deal with the beats and the rhythm because I'm caught with the lyrics. So, Tim, you deal with hip hop. Mm-hmm. Bill, you deal with everybody. You know, Kelly, you have employers who work for you who are in the showroom doing things and they're talking to each other using the term. What do you say to them, Kelly, when they're sitting there talking and they don't even think twice about the history of the word?
Well, I'm pretty clear, especially you came to visit us. And so I'm usually pretty clear. I'm like, hey, guys, like, please don't, you know. And
does the word make you uncomfortable when you hear Black people talking about it, though, too? Yeah. Among ourselves?
Of course.
Why does it make you uncomfortable?
Well, the context of the word, I mean, it's as I said, I mean, and it bears repeating, it's the atomic word, you know. And I understand that it's been reclaimed and it's a term of endearment. But the potential, the liability of somebody else, and that's the word, the key word is liability. If you use it, you hear it, and it becomes mundane, it becomes acceptable, it becomes a part of your vernacular or the way that you speak, and it just slips out.
And that's the danger. That's the problem with it being so, you know.
Why is that the danger? Because it slips out with Black folks saying, yo, what's up?
I would say this. It also depends on the artist. Because, like, I'm just going to be honest with you.
Well, please be honest with you. Please be honest with us.
Always honest. So for my movie in particular, me and Craig Scott, we had a conversation about this word. And he said, okay, can white people say the title of the movie? And in Craig's perspective, we're talking about a Black revolutionary actor who was a bodyguard to Minister Louis Farrakhan and Dr. Khalid Muhammad. He said, absolutely. He said, absolutely, white people can say the title of my movie. It makes no difference, you know? And for me, I just didn't understand it. I was like, well, why is it that, like, because to his point.
But it's a good question, but would they actually do it? Meaning, like, go ahead, say it. Like, say the title of my movie. I dare you.
And see, and to be fair, that's the problem with it being just so presented, because it's like, well, dang, like, we're having all this music, but the number one consumer, the number one buyer of the music is white people.
The number one buyer of hip hop
is white people.
Who was the number one? No, I'm gonna come back to that. But you just said something talking about white people. Hold that thought for a minute.
Okay.
I'm going to one of my favorite white people, Bill Goebel. We went to a show the other night. We went to dinner to the show. Went to dinner, a nice restaurant, local restaurant, full of people. Me and my wife's the only Black folk in there. Not even the kitchen staff was Black or the cook, which is normal, different. So then we went to a show. The show was called Tina, you know, Broadway show, yada, yada, yada. 3,000 people in there. The character was 80% African-Americans, the rest white. The gentleman who was portrayed as Ike Turner, he used the N-word probably 15 times, referring to other Black people.
Right.
The audience never said a word. But when one of the white guys who was portrayed as a producer for Capitol Records used the N-word to describe why they wouldn't give Tina a contract, the audience went, ooh, I mean, everybody's like they held their breath. So no one said anything when a Black person used the word, but when a white person used it in a derogatory way, then
it made them uncomfortable.
Exactly. So Bill, you were there and you're one of my favorite white people. What did you feel about it? Did you even understand that point? What was your thought there? And then you could share with us some more derogatory terms in a nice way.
Well, I think you have to look at the context of what was going on. Tina was trying to get a contract, and she was working in London trying to get a contract, and she was being encouraged by a number of people, and she couldn't understand why she wasn't getting a contract. And finally, one of her promoters finally went to the head of the recording studio and said, why won't you give Tina her contract? You know she's got great talent. And then he came out, we will never give the N-word woman a contract.
I think he said gal.
Or
But either
whatever.
way, yeah.
And that's what
What year would that have been?
That's when Tina Turner went over to London and came back a superstar, because Ike used to beat her up all the time. So I don't know what year.
74, 75?
I guess.
Nah.
So this is post civil rights era stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Hey, Kelly, I got a question. You've been overseas a lot with different people. Have you ever heard anybody use the N word overseas?
So, not foreign people, but I've had some dumb redneck customers that have used it. And
Really?
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like,
But like people that are in the plants and people
No.
that are managers, the foreigners.
it's a Western word.
It's a Western word.
Yeah, it's a Western word.
What does Western word mean?
American.
It's a Western in Europe, right? Because let's not kid ourselves. You've spent enough time in Europe. I've spent plenty of time in Europe. Europeans are more racist than Americans, 100%.
Explain that.
Amen.
I'm not
Amen.
familiar
I agree with that. I agree with that.
You know, they have this big problem with immigrants from North Africa, from Nigeria, from that area, immigrating into Europe. And so they're very ethnocentric. They're very racist people. And so,
Oh, they have even problems, the Polish against Ukrainians. Not so much, but there used to be that each country had its own national.
everybody hates everybody. That's that's not anything new. But I mean, literally, like you're walking around and you'll see the guys, they put out like the fake purses and all that, and the cops will be looking to go get them, and they're always like the Nigerians or the North African people.
You know why?
Why?
They can run fast.
Stereotypes.
So,
Bias, prejudice, red flag. Go ahead, Tim.
so I have a question about Black Europeans. Do they have similar pro-Black sentiments? Like, what is that? Since there is,
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
like from your experience, what do you?
So, I funny enough, I've especially in the UK, I've worked with Black buyers, but it's always just been on a business level, and so, you know, we've never had that conversation, so it's hard to really get too deep and get in too far to see it. But I would say that it seems to me like being Black in Europe versus being Black in America is like totally different. It would seem just
Even South America is different being Black.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're much more prejudiced down there, and it's the coloration of the skin. The darker you are, the more prejudice they have against you.
I mean, there's biases everywhere.
Well, you know, it's interesting to hear the two white guys talk about where is harder being Black, here, there, no, everywhere. But I'm going to go to my white friend, Bill. Bill, we talked about a couple more different, I think you said the 10 most
Slur words, racial words.
Okay, let me check in with the audience. Hey, listen, audience, are you okay? You know, just want to check in. I know this is tough. I know you're like, dog, Odell. But listen, this is how we find common ground. So hang in there with us. Don't tune us out. Hang in there with us. Listen, Kelly's good people. Tim's good people. Odell's good people. Bill's good people. We're just dealing with some stuff that a lot of people won't deal with. So audience, just hang in there with us.
These are 11 most common racist words and phrases. Gypped, off the reservation. That one's native, obviously. Native American. Sold down the river.
Damn, I used that one today.
Yeah.
What's sold down the river? Where'd that come from? Is that a Black person or
As
what?
far as it's a racist slur, one is obvious. Yeah, it refers to being literally sold down the Mississippi or the Ohio River.
Oh, so
as
that's
a
Black.
slave.
Yeah, that's slaves. That's
And
slave.
then peanut gallery is something from the vaudeville that was the cheapest seats and the worst view. So peanuts were sold at these shows, and sometimes people seated in the cheaper seats would throw peanuts at the unpopular performers.
Okay.
It was also racist. There's another one called grandfathered in, and that was also related to Blacks.
Is all the races, do Black people have a monopoly on the majority of the racist stuff? Come on,
Out
y'all.
of the 10, 5 do. Yeah.
I mean, come on, man.
No time, no see is a reference to Chinese people.
No, wait a minute. What was that again?
No time, no see. It's related to Chinese people speaking Pygmy English.
Okay.
And the other theory was long time no see referred to Native Americans speaking English, as in the old Westerns. And this is an interesting one. Hip, hip, hooray. Which,
hip hooray. That's
yeah.
usually a very positive thing.
Yeah.
We shout that out.
Yeah.
Sounds a little old school to me.
Yeah.
Hip hip
Yeah.
hooray. Hey.
It's
Yeah.
it's derived
Yeah, true. Nobody-
it's derived from anti-Semitic chant of hip hip that was a rallying cry against Jewish people in and around Germany, and came to be known as the hip hip riots. At some point, hip hip became hip hip hooray, and meanie eeny meeny miny mo. You know that one.
Yeah, catch a Negro by the toe. If you
Yeah.
holler, let him go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. But Bill, let me ask a question. Kelly, Odell, Tim, when do we allow a word or phrase to evolve, to Tim's point, that where the N word with the ER versus A, or to Kelly's point, said black people took it back? Do we allow it to evolve, or does it still stick with Odell, the atomic bomb, where Kelly said, because Odell used to be in third grade, and I can remember just like it was this morning, and we were integrating schools, and white people would mouth or say the N word, and we would fight. I mean, just in the middle of the class, because that was the atomic bomb. That was it. So now, how can do we allow it to evolve, or is it us who's stuck, or what? Go ahead, Bill.
Well, the question I have: all these words are human made, and it takes human beings to decide if they're good or bad. And like you said, in third grade, somebody mouthed it to you, and you would start fighting. The question is, over that word, how far would you go beating the kid? Would you kill him?
I would not kill a kid, but the kids, it wasn't like I was the biggest kid in the class. I mean, we had white folks in the early 70s and the late 60s doing integration was just as nasty and prejudiced as black people. It was war in South Carolina, in the low country of South Carolina, in those schools with poor white folks and poor black folks. It was like the Hunger Games. It was just when it came to race and racism and the teachers was involved, everybody was at play.
Until you played basketball.
Until we played sports. You're absolutely correct.
Then you were okay.
Interesting.
That's it. Sports is the democratization of races, not racism, because that's you have true democracy in a locker room.
Unifier.
Yeah,
sports is a unifier.
It's a unifier because it's really the only. I mean, a locker room is like, especially in college athletics. I played college football. I mean, that the locker room was integrated, right? I was a minority in the locker room. We talked about this before we started the podcast. I mean, I bet of 110 kids, maybe 15 or 20 of them were white. And so I was in the minority. And so, but you get context, and because maybe it's you become numb to hearing it. And so, and if it's not a part of what you think or how you speak or how you would never speak, then it doesn't bother you. And so you just become numb to it. It's like something that's a very, very sharp edge just gets dulled over time. And I think that word is still just as sharp, especially depending on the context. And that's I think that's another big point is that if you're using the word and you mean to hurt somebody, like you mean to inflict pain in them, or you mean to make them feel less than human, then that word, they're using it in a vile context. But if you're a teacher in English and you're reading out loud from To Kill a Mockingbird or Huck Finn or any historical past literature work, and you use that word, you're not using it in a hurtful context. You're using it in a historical context. But if you say it, you run the risk of being canceled, right?
But we got into this conversation because Mr. Kelly from Greensboro Day came and talked about it. What kind of backlash did you get from that? Then Tim's going to jump in. They didn't kick you out of the club, did they?
No, but you know,
they didn't kick you out of the white folks, good looking tan club.
I'm not looking over my shoulder, worried too much. Let's just put it that way. That's not really my personality. I mean, I'm not going to back from it. And I mean, at the time when we were speaking about it, it was just highlighting the current affairs, but also let's add an extra layer to this conversation, because the extra layer to this conversation is this thing right here, the telephone that has a camera, which catches people doing stupid things and saying stupid things that they're going to have to pay for the rest of their lives.
Amen.
And so
why is it a life sentence though? Because that's what you said the last
well,
time.
that was my question to you. Is the kid, and
kid made a mistake, Tim. Young kid, how old was he?
18?
18 years old, just got mad at a teammate, and he
No. Let me give you the context so we understand.
I'm sorry. Thank
this
you.
This was it was a video of the Greensboro Day School kid in his car after the game saying the N-word directed at the best player of that game. It was not innocuous. It was not reading from the rap list. This was meant to inflict pain. It was not the context of it was not a softball. And so you can't skirt around this issue. This is 100%. It was meant to inflict. And so, but that's the difference. That's what we're talking about. Now you bring up the question. Now, is this kid, should they just start digging the grave right now and put this kid in it because the next 60 or 70 years of his life are ruined because of this stupidity? Do people learn from their mistakes? I mean, there's so many layers of this conversation. And I think, you guys probably have as much context or have a better understanding of this, because if somebody says that to you, how long does it last? Like, how long does that, if somebody said it to you in a mean, hurtful way,
right,
does that context last for?
So that's a great question. So to answer your question, I'll give you my personal experience and then so when I was 18 years old, when I went to community college.
And how old are you now?
I'm 29.
Okay. Oh, excuse me. You say 29. I got underwear. Tidy white, older than 29. I do. And the elastic don't work anymore, but just go ahead. 20, okay. Mr. 29.
So when I was 18 and I went to Alamance Community College in Graham, North Carolina. And when I went, it was dark. It was probably around 10 o'clock at night.
Bastion of civilization in Graham, North Carolina.
That's basically where there was a time where they were trying to say that the KKK was marching, on a bridge or whatever. And so there was like a car of like 6 white guys, and I was 18 years old. They circled around me and they started to spit at me, and they would call me the N-word. Negro, you better go back to Africa where you come from, and all this kind of stuff, spitting at me. And I didn't trust white people for a minute after that. I remember walking and seeing all the white people. I was like, oh my God, is this person going to get me? Is that person going to get me? But I remembered I had so many experiences with people where I said, there's no way that I can't trust a group of people because of, some of the racial epithets that people were throwing at me. But I honestly think it comes to the issue of power, because the same reason why someone can say, I forgot who was the guy who was trying not to give the money to Tina Turner. What was his name?
Yeah, he was betraying
the president of AM
president
Records,
of Capitol Records.
President of Capitol Records. And the other person was Ike Turner, who said the N-word.
Yes.
So yes. Ike Turner said the N-word. I mean, he's a musician. He doesn't really have any power. He didn't really have any position outside of being a musician. You can pick up a musician across the street, But if you're talking about the president of Capitol Records, you're talking about a man who has significant power, that has economic potential to mobilize the music industry. And so what really needs to happen is we kind of have to shift in the Black community, whether this person can say it and this person can say it. What we need to do as a community is we need to be able to invest and build in one another, and then also embrace other people. Because look, when I go to Dame's Chicken and Waffles, I don't just see Black people going in those restaurants. I see white people going into those restaurants. So we need to be able to go and build one with one another, but also build with people who believe in unity, and I think that's where the conversation kind of comes into play. Should there be forgiveness? Absolutely. There was a movie that, and I don't mean to there was a movie that Taraji P. Henson did, and it was talking about her friendship with the person who was a former KKK member, and they were able to build a connection after years of him being a racist. And now you have a kid saying something over a phone, and that's what he's going to be judged for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But you have somebody who 50, 60 years ago probably did.
It was in his heart. That was in his was in his heart. But I'm not so sure that kid, what he was saying wasn't in his heart. I don't know. But he'll lose whatever scholarship he had. It'll be tough for him that will stick with him for
a long time,
forever. It's not like somebody's going to go into YouTube or Instagram or whatever and like erase that. It's there.
So now it's time for the professor to come in and bring some civility to our conversation. Professor, what say you, my friend?
Well, that fellow that used the N-word that kind of impacted his career, if he would have said the F word, nobody would care.
Not a word.
Wow.
Nobody care.
That's why you the professor.
Insight, knowledge. With
Probably-
the ER or an A?
Probably both. ERA.
Oh, okay. When you said F word, I was thinking about another word.
Favorite, my favorite. Is that the word you were thinking?
No, I was
favorite?
thinking when you said the F word, I said, wait, are you sure?
Yeah.
You know, because the other word, then you get in trouble too. Yeah.
No, he's talking about the 4-letter F word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
See, I'm old enough to know. See, I hear
That's
the F
offensive.
word, I'm old enough to know what the F word is. You're like, well, wait a minute, Odell's the other F word. I'm like, what other F word is?
I meant
okay.
funky.
I have to use my
I'm
best
funky.
best behavior not to use the F word when I'm the reverend over here.
Yeah, when I remember working in a grocery store, we used the F word about every other word. It was just everybody got in the habit of using it, and nobody thought anything of it.
It's a term of endearment.
Well, is it the power of the word, Professor? Is it the power of the word? And I think that's what Tim was talking about, and I think that's the same thing Kelly's talking about. So just help us, because I don't want to say you're the oldest around the table, but
when you at night walking around and you step on that Lego,
yes.
do you use the N word or the F word or ouch?
I'm thankful to say that I say, oh God. So I think and
So
I'm
think God's a Lego?
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, I think what's in us comes out of us in a way. And I'm older now, mature now, and hopefully more exposed to different people. So I'm trying to find common ground in why Kelly would say this word, or why would Tim say a word, or why would Bill say a word. But I thank God that we could sit around here and talk about it, because I think a lot of people who are listening to us are getting some insights from a different perspective. So, Bill, when you with your friends behind closed doors, and the majority of them may be white, and the N-word comes up, does the N-word come up just from conversation, or did someone do them wrong? Or are they just using it? Because why use the F word, 4-letter F word, or the N word, or God word, whatever? Because, truth of the matter, some people get offensive by saying God, by saying God. Professor's on you, sir.
God's name in vain. You're not allowed to do that. Yeah. I haven't heard the N word used by someone. I mean, I've read about it and stuff, but I haven't heard it in a long time, which is a good thing. Now, the F word, it's like,
rolls off
the road at you right
Is
now.
that what y'all call the F-bomb?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to use it, but everyone.
I agree with Bill. I mean, I like to say that I hang around with civilized people for the most part, and
Including company.
Yeah, even if you're in a room of like-minded people or all white people, whatever the case may be, if somebody uses that word, you just look at them like they're just ignorant, right? Like that's just stupid.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying that because I'm trying to play up to you guys. I'm just saying it's just stupid. It just sounds stupid.
The F word.
Who talks like that? Now the F word, I've probably used the F word 25 times today.
Were you upset, or just think?
No, I use it as a term of endearment.
Oh man. Okay.
It's love language.
Okay.
It is.
It is. It's love language.
No, I need I went. Okay.
I know.
Here we go, Bill. Here we go, Bill.
Your whole congregation is like, you invited that guy back again. All these
And
Don Wild.
And I'm going to invite him again. I'm gonna invite, because I believe in shaking it up.
You never know what he's going to say. That's why you bring me on here.
Yeah. It only took us 37 minutes to get in the gutter.
Tim,
Well, I mean, hey, you're the Reverend. I have to tell the truth.
yes, sir.
Right?
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Okay, it was 43 times.
So young blood. That's
Yes,
do
sir.
white people use the term young blood, or that's a black term?
no,
Okay.
no.
So young blood.
I've heard young in, like that's a Southern thing. Hey, what's up, young in?
So young blood
Like
is a black
53 years
term
old.
to say, hey, young blood. And I think young blood is kind of the sense of endearment. So young blood, what do you think about this? Here you are with all these older white guys and a good looking black guy, and you don't seem intimidated. You just holding the conversation just like you do this every day. What's going to happen to your movie, and what challenges that you have with your movie? Just the title, because I know the Odells of the world would say, you got the wrong title. Bill's a marketing guy. Kelly goes around the world marketing, and I'm trying to get him to put animal print in. He's like, Odell, people don't do animal print, is only accessories. So if he don't do animal print, just accessories, I don't think he's going to be showing can an N-word do Shakespeare in his furniture market showroom? But you never know.
I mean, I think everybody should watch the movie. Now, I want to say this. I'm honored to be amongst all of you gentlemen.
Oh, thank you.
It really is a pleasure
Thank you.
to know this man right here. What I would say to answer your question is this is what I grew up on. I grew up around older people who were older than me, who had who gave me responsibility to be a leader. And so this is the kind of stuff that I'm used to. But in terms of the challenges for the title, oh my goodness. I mean, there were so many challenges in trying to promote this movie. I even remember telling Craig, I was like, Craig, like, you know, should we do abbreviations? And Craig Scott is of the mind, and I respected it because I'm like, you know what? This is his story. This is his life. He is an activist through and through. He is a raw guy. And so me knowing that, I knew that there was going to only be a certain segment of people who would embrace the word, who would embrace what's really going on with the movie. It would be people who really like to go past just the title of it. Okay, what's the meaning behind you calling this movie this word?
Mm-hmm.
People who are curious to say, okay, what's going on, rather than the people who just look at the, oh my goodness.
But would you say, okay, this is a good question, and this is maybe to the more controversial side.
Yes,
but
please.
I feel like there is a radical side that are just waiting for people to get caught in these situations so that they can turn this into an issue that does in turn divide us. Meaning that there are people like waiting, let's catch them.
Well, you know,
sooner or later we're going to get them.
Also, it's a way to get publicity because Odell and I were talking way, way, way back when we started this. We were thinking about different guests, and some of the consultants that we talked to said, you know, you got to get like Elon Musk on, then your audience will grow. So we were thinking, well, let's get Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, wow.
And have her call the N-word to Odell.
Jeez.
That would get us a lot of publicity.
That might get somebody slapped on national podcast TV. That might get somebody slapped. Odell ain't that saved. Now, I don't know, Marjorie. Marjorie, you might be the vice president candidate, but don't come on here in person and call Odell the N-word, because I don't think you'll mean that as a term of endurement.
Nope.
Did I hit a raw nerve?
Yeah, raw nerve. That's exactly like you seen Will Smith.
Say the professor had all the black folks talking up. Huh?
Yeah, Will Smith looked nice.
Oh man. Well, Will Smith is nice.
Has she been caught saying that word?
She has not been caught, but I'm sure she's used it.
Okay.
Oh,
I thought maybe she was like,
no, I'm not gonna,
on the record.
I'm not going to say that she said or didn't say it, but this is what I would say. Yes. We had issues with the title and promoting it. I had issues with family who really did not support making this movie. And they love me, but they're like, how are you going to you're a Christian. You're a Christian man making a movie about a thief. And I feel like, no, that's the problem with the culture that we have today. It's like when we look at our biblical hero.
Is that the problem with us old Black Christian folk? That's what you're trying to say in a nice way. Say what you mean, young blood. Say what you mean.
I'll say it with my chest. I said, look, some of y'all have to allow some of these radicals to actually stand up and fight.
I agree.
People who will fight.
Well, also, I mean, so there's always this dynamic between what is art, right? Because what you're doing is artful. It's making art. But then also add another context to this. Comedy, right? I mean, because they used to say that comedy was like kind of something that can either bring us together or can divide us depending on what your perspective is on the comedian. But I've always felt like comedians, it's like the last bastion of free speech.
Exactly.
Right? Where these guys, they can, like, I love Dave Chappelle. Why do I love Dave Chappelle? Because he goes after everybody.
Everyone.
He goes after ignorant white people. He goes after ignorant black people. He goes after ignorant if you're ignorant, he's going to get you. Right. And so like, that's the common theme is
Dave Chappelle ignorant?
No, I think he's a genius. He's nothing short of a genius. I mean, he's an artist.
He's the people's comedian.
He's the people's comedian. And like, okay, but I'll bring up another comedian, Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor gave up using the N-word, right?
He did.
He gave it up. And I mean, I
used it a lot before.
He used it a lot. He even, like, it was the title of one of his.
Maybe he used it all up before he gave it up.
No, but I mean, he had this epiphany on one of his comedic routines where he basically said, how can I call my fellow brother the N-word? How can I use it in this context with the meaning of hate? And he goes into this deep, like, thoughtful response. I mean, I got to pull it up. I wish we could pull up YouTube. I'm sure it exists on YouTube.
Okay. So,
but it would be watch Richard Pryor and his epiphany on using the N-word, because you're talking about a black comedian. And as I said, like, comedy is the epitome of free speech, right?
Yeah.
It's truth tellers.
But we made it almost through the show without actually using the word itself. And we don't want to pull it up and use the word. But let me say this. Let me ask this. We had this show planned and we were very careful how we were going to handle the show, but we didn't want to be scripted. So we'll start with Kelly. Kelly, what was your thoughts coming into today's show, recording it? What was the good, the bad, the ugly, the concerns? Then we hit the professor, and then we hit Youngblood, who just found out about it today when I grabbed him and said, hey, I got something I think you'll be interested. And then I'll share my thoughts.
My first thought was, don't screw it up. I've got a kid in college, another one in private school, and I can't afford to be canceled. No, all kidding aside, I don't mind to talk about tough topics. And I mean, I think if you approach anything with an open heart and without malice, then you can have a discussion on anything. I think somebody could tell me why they have a problem with me. And I mean, you have to listen. And so, I don't know if this is like a question that there's any insight today. Like, I don't think we solved the conundrum of the N word today, but at least we showed that you can have a thoughtful conversation on it without emotion. Because I think the one thing that's consensus amongst us is that just don't use the word. It doesn't belong in your vocabulary.
It's interesting. My thoughts, and I'll jump in here while the professor does his thing. I thought from a perspective of, okay, I have to be very careful and concerned and aware of how my fellow Black people perceive this conversation in this podcast subject. I wasn't as concerned about white folks, how they perceived it or not, but I'm very much concerned.
There's no white fragility here.
Okay, well, I was very concerned that when my Black friends and Black people in general listen to this, it's like, what the heck is Odell doing? That was my biggest concern, not fear. Because at the end of the day, everybody know Odell could say, hey, I care, but I don't really care what you think. Because if I cared what you think, I'll be thinking like you, and I don't want to think like you. So that was my main concern. And I wanted to be respectful. And the main thing, I didn't want the word itself to be used. So that was the main thing, because I don't mind taking on the tough issues. But that was my thought. What does my Black brothers and sisters think about this conversation? And we present it in a way that it was insightful. It wasn't offensive, but I want it to be uncomfortable to everybody. I want you to be comfortably uncomfortable. Professor, what say you, my friend?
Well, let me go back to the Tina Turner Broadway show. The first half of it was extremely depressing for me because she was being taken advantage of by her grandma, her mom, Ike, all kinds of other people. And she was basically a slave.
Yeah.
And I hated that part of the movie. I don't like going to those kind of movies where people are being taken advantage of or being abused. We went to a movie talking about slavery, where kidnapped kids. Mm-hmm. And it was so depressing to me. And so when he used the N-word in the second half of the show, I think it was second, maybe it was first half, it bothered me. But what bothered me more is treating people bad. The N-word is a bad word, don't get me wrong, but that's just one little spot. When you treat people bad during their whole life, that bothers me more than one little spot. And one little spot does bother me, but seeing her being taken advantage of, I was about ready to get on stage and just take some people out to the woodshed. And I wouldn't call them the N-word.
It's interesting you would say that, though, because the reality of it was the R&B, Black folk gave up on Tina when she wouldn't go with Ike and Tina anymore. I guess it's pop.
I'm sure. Pop.
Yeah, they would deal with Elvis.
You're going to have to ask the young guy here.
Okay, and they didn't deal with Tina, but it was the foreign, I think it was in London or France, Paris or London.
International.
The International saw it as like Olivia Newton-John. And we just said that in some ways, Europe is more prejudiced than
America, except for when it comes to sports and entertainment.
Are you kidding me? Have you seen those soccer matches where they throw like bananas at the black players and the chants that they do? I mean, it's horrible. Though the Europe is bad.
Got it. But Europe gave
bad.
Tina, it gave Tina her second chance, and she had to change her style though.
Yeah.
She had to change what she was singing, and that's it. Youngblood, what do you think? And then we're going to go one last time around to share our thoughts, and we're out of here.
So when you first,
wait a minute.
what's up?
One thing I need you to understand
Yes, sir.
Oh, here we go.
is that there's only one good-looking black guy on this show today.
What you mean?
Every day, always and forevermore. So as long as you understand that, Youngblood, you might get invited back.
Okay.
But the choice
But is there only one Slim Trim?
good-looking black guy.
I
There you
got
go.
you.
I'm owning it all. Go ahead, Youngblood. I just wanted to let you understand that.
I got you. So when you came, I had no issue with having this conversation because for me, I'm always looking at it from a Black Power perspective of, okay, well, we understand that the N word is an offensive title, but the reason why it's offensive is because of the history, but also because what we need to do as a community is how can we lift each other up? Why is it that when we say it to each other, whether it be enduring or not, we're not as offended? Because let's be honest about it. People who use that word who are black, they're not always using it as a term as endearment. They're using it as a term.
You're right.
Get you.
Right.
I'm about to be violent against you.
You're right.
Depending on who you're talking about, compared to when a white person says it. So from my perspective is, okay, what can we do as a community to be better from a social perspective, from an economic perspective, and then from a creative perspective? From a creative perspective, from a historical perspective, the word should be used. Okay, if it's in the Killing Mockingbird, okay, that's in a title that's about what? Trying to advance the cause. Okay, like my movie is supposed to advance the cause. It's a lesson within the title, And so for people, for me, I had no issue with the word because with no issue with the title or what we're discussing, because for me, I'm just like, hey, what can we do to uplift each other?
But in your personal life, you don't use the word.
Oh, I definitely use the word. I should not use it.
What that big old smile came on your face?
I mean, look, I'm
GA or GR?
Oh no, definitely GA. I definitely use the word. I shouldn't use the word. I really shouldn't. It's almost like it's almost like a conditioning that I have to like recondition myself, unlearning and then relearning of the title. I'm like, no, this is not something that I should be saying, but it's in the music. So we have to hold, D1 talked about it. We have to hold the investors accountable. We have to hold the musicians accountable, and we have to hold the consumers accountable so that a young man that's in high school, that's 16, 17 years old, that's hearing this word every single day, because hip hop is the number one. I mean, look, rock and roll was the number one consumer for I don't know, 50 years, right? Hip hop, we just entered 50 years of hip hop. I mean, hip hop is the new rock and roll. So how can we expect a whole group of people not to use the word at all? You know what I mean? And it's plugged in. So we have to hold each other accountable and say, okay, we have to make uplifting music that's positive to get rid of the killing and bang bang. Let's talk about fathers being in the home. Let's talk about investments. Let's talk about real issues that positively impact our community. And let's get rid of, so the issue isn't just the N word. The issue is all the other stuff that we have to deal with in our community. And that's why I want to have this conversation, because to me, this is just the stepping stone to that.
Okay. So let me interject something, Youngblood. So the B word is used a lot.
Yes.
The videos degrade women in some cases.
Yes.
However, now Beyonce is now doing a country music recording, right? That's getting rave reviews. How do you feel about that? Then I'm going to hit Kelly, how he feels about it. I don't know if he's a country music fan,
No.
but help me understand, because maybe the people in the country music world are like, wait a minute, we didn't invite you here.
So
Sounds like Republican Party.
So this is what I'll do. Because just like
The North Carolina Republican Party or the Guilford County Republican Party?
Just Guilford County, baby.
All right.
So just like in whether, because we know Abraham Lincoln, he was a Republican who freed African Americans, right? just like in country music, in rock and roll. Who started that? Black people. Black people were a part of those inventions. Black people, the most radical people were, you know what I mean? So that's the first thing. The second thing, to answer your question about the B word and the objectification, the sexualization of the Black woman, that has to stop. We have to.
But we're doing it though. Black artists are doing it.
We have
because we say white man, the white man calls this and the white man calls that. But the white man, you said, Odell, the white man is paying for us to do that. Where's the blame or is no blame?
The truth is, the reason why, look, you have to look at it from an ecosystem, right? So we know that the corporations have the dollars that finance the artists to make it. And then the number one, you know what I mean? So we have to, of course, hold the corporations responsible. But we also have to hold the artists responsible, and then we have to re-educate the consumers. Now, how do we do this? We do it all the time. People change belief systems. They change the way things go. We have the opportunity, if we have the financing, to be able to create power and change.
That's really interesting because that becomes an economic dynamic. So I'm paying you millions of dollars to say really bad things and degrade your fellow mankind.
Wow. No, degrade your race. Your not your fellow mankind.
Well, I mean,
your race.
But I mean, I'm talking in the case, is it the B word now? We can't say that. No, just kidding. I don't, let's not go there.
This is not censorship, people. This is not, I'm just trying to be respectful because we are a Christian station.
So again,
even though we don't sound like it sometimes, but you know what? Even Jesus himself got upset, and they told me that, didn't Peter cut somebody, took a blade out and cut somebody, and then somebody cussed and all that kind of good stuff?
Lied on Jesus. I don't know that man. I don't know who that is. That don't sound real Christian to me. I don't know.
I don't know.
I
don't know none of it.
I wonder how you cuss in Aramaic.
No, but so the question is that now you're talking about an economic dynamic because the record companies make money, the artists make money, the producers make money, the concerts make money.
Well,
there's a lot of money being made.
Exactly.
Well,
and there's a lot of money, but I would also say that there's a lot of money in hate too, because when something bad goes on, then CNN or Fox News or whatever, they blow it up, they cover it. So maybe you could say that there's just a lot of money in making people uncomfortable with each other. Exactly. Maybe there's a lot of money to be made in making people feel that they have less in common than they have more in common.
Or dehumanizing.
That's very well said.
Yeah, and look at porn.
That's an interesting one.
Because it makes a lot of money.
Billions.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars. Absolutely.
As a person who doesn't partake in porn or anything like that, I know nothing about what you all are talking about. I'm like Sergeant Schultz on Hogan Hero. I know nothing. Professor, go ahead, Tim. Now I need the professor to give me an update on something.
So this is what I would say about porn. Porn is absolutely problematic because it takes away the uniqueness of the individual that you're actually connecting with. A lot of young people, a lot of pastors, a lot of people, they secretly have these issues that affect them. It's going to affect the way that they do business. It's going to affect their personal life. It affects their dating. It affects their marriage. What I would tell people, and it's something that's a fight that I think everybody has to deal with. You say, okay, what do you want? Do you want the real or do you want the fake? Pornography.
Explain that to us, please.
Pornography is a cheap intimacy when you feel like you're alone. So most people, they do porn because they don't want to have to go through the issues of
emotional connection.
The emotional connection.
Okay. Hold on a minute. As we started,
this sounds like a whole other podcast.
I was just going there. I was just going there, Kelly, saying that. Okay,
I'm not going to join that one. I got no interest in that topic.
We got on in the N word and we came back to it. So now here we go. So what we're going to do, Youngblood, you keep talking, and then we're going to wrap it up with, I need my partner in crime, my main man, Bill Goble, to give me an update on his campaign. And Youngblood, you don't have anything to do with this politically. Kelly, you have nothing to do with politically. But Odell,
no, but I'm always interested to hear how much time Bill had to spend in court this week.
No.
Go ahead, Youngblood. Finish up on the point. What do you think when it comes to porn? Do you think it's a black thing, a white thing, a young thing, an old thing? Is a Christian, a human thing? You think it's males, females? Is a little bit of everybody?
It affects everyone. Young, old, white, black, in between, because it's a cheap intimacy. that
It's also an addiction.
It's an addiction. It's an addiction because people, it's instant. You don't have to work for it. You can see as many different varieties and colors and races. And
Wait a minute now. You got that look in your eye. You getting that look in your eye. That look in your eye, young buck. That look in your eye.
Hey,
Okay.
listen, before we get too down in the weeds on this one, let's put marijuana as one of our other.
Okay,
no,
we used to be all about
you,
politics. Now we talking about Mary Jane. We used to be all about politics, about race, and I guess we are going that way. Bill, help. Where are we? Are we running? What's going on with the school board, sir? Share with us. We want to know what's.
After this podcast, my political campaign is shot.
The white supremacists, you lost the vote.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe people like real, honest conversation about the N-word, honest conversation about marijuana, honest conversations about what we're struggling with.
Yeah.
And some people are struggling with you, Mr. Goebel. Some people don't like you. You've gotten sued. You got kicked out. You've gotten tarred and feathered politically. And you've done a lot, man. And you're a good guy. Why do bad things happen to a good guy, but you won't quit?
Nah, none of that stuff is bad. That's just an adventure. I don't view it as being bad, quite frankly, because I know me. I feel comfortable. You know, we've got 3,000 signatures. So it's 3,000 people that I talked to, and they said, yeah, we believe in you. We'll sign.
How many did you get from that school up the road?
Jefferson?
Yeah.
Jefferson Elementary or the Jewish community?
The AHA.
AHA. That was
now that's a low blow. That's a low blow. That's a low blow, Kelly. That's a low blow. But go ahead, Bill. I know you don't run away from it.
It's a good question. It's 2,999. I guess.
The guy who runs it.
Boy, y'all gonna get me in trouble. Y'all gonna get me in trouble. Go ahead, Mr. Goebel. So just can you very briefly bring the audience from the very beginning to the end, whatever you want to share with them, so they could continue to be on this journey with you, sir?
Well, the ones that are keeping up with us, I'm running as an unaffiliated, so I had to collect 2,136 signatures, and I got close to 3,000. So we're going to be on a ballot. I have to go downtown. In fact, I'm supposed to go down today and pay my $201 to apply, and then it goes to Raleigh and they certify it, and then I'm on the ballot.
You don't have to go through a primary?
No, I'll go into general election. And so I'll be in the general election, and there'll be a Republican, a Democrat, and me. And our district is made up of 38% unaffiliated. That's what I'm running.
I think the majority is independent now. I think I heard that. So, I mean, I think you're sitting in a good position.
Yeah, and the state majority is now. It's fastest growing.
I mean, with the Republican Party in North Carolina, it's pretty easy to become independent.
So any press release, any news things going to hit? Do we see you on TV? What's going on?
Yeah.
So I can say, I know that guy. I know that guy.
I think it was in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago, the front page. Every time I get in the newspaper, I'm out of town. So people call me and say, hey, I opened up the paper and there you were. As long as I'm not in the obituaries, I'm pretty happy. Yeah. But so I'm going to probably put a press release out tonight, letting them know that maybe Friday I'll go down to the courthouse and sign those papers. And if they want to come, they can cover it. And then, I've had meetings with a lot of political leaders in town. They're encouraging me. They're going to support me as we get closer.
Have they endorsed you? Have you got any big endorsements?
I do, but I'm not going to announce them now. But
okay.
I do.
Fantastic.
And
I thought I was the big endorsement. I thought the good-looking black guy was the big endorsement, but obviously I'm not. Maybe I'm just small potatoes.
Yes, but we've got
we've
been working on a number of them, and
that word's not even in your vernacular.
So yeah,
vernacular, is that even a word?
Good. We got a couple fundraisers
on our podcast. It is.
Couple fundraisers planned. We've not had a fundraiser yet, and we raised a heck of a lot of money. And so we'll have a fundraiser probably in October, because now's not a good time because people aren't thinking election. There's a runoff primary starting April 25th through May 11th, and then the elections, I think, May 5th, 14th. So I'll be out in the front of the polls, early voting polls, handing out literature and asking people to vote for me in November. So I'll be campaigning.
How does it feel? How does it feel to know that you actually took on a Herculean task and you did it?
Well, I had a lot of friends to help me. It wasn't me alone. And it was stressful, probably the most stressful thing I ever had to do. It was interesting. The Republican Party, the local Republican Party, put a social media post, "Do not sign Bill's petition." And they reposted that many times.
Did they call you the N-word?
No. They called me the B word, though.
With the ER or A?
Oh, why? Yeah, in fact, I was at a fundraiser for Virginia Fox, and I was at Roy Carroll's, and Roy's a good friend, so I went and wanted to meet Virginia, and the Republican group was there from the local Republican Party, and they obviously saw my name on the list because it was a small group, maybe 30 people, and I went to shake Virginia Fox's hand, and I was talking to her, one of her staff members, gave him a card and said, "Hey, I'd like to come up to Washington and meet her and talk about our Youth Resilience Summit that we're doing for the state, and bring her up to speak because she's on the education committee for the House." And my opponent's wife leaned over and whispered in her ear, "That's the guy we were talking about." And she turned around and walked away from it.
Is she a Republican?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I understand why. I'm not upset about it because she needs this Republican Party to support her. I get it. I bet you if I show up in her office and she doesn't put the two and two together, I'll just be another constituent.
Typical politician.
Yeah. So and I went to shake the hand of a couple people and they wouldn't shake my hand in front of everybody. And, that's their prerogative. They don't have to. Just, I know next time I'm not going to extend my hand.
So
you need to get that on video. That might be a good campaign thing.
Ooh,
huh?
I like that.
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
So
it shows you truly are an outcast and truly an independent.
Yeah.
So as you go 30% Democrat, 30% independent, to Kelly's point, and 30% Republican. But people don't see you that way. I was in I won't mention it, but I belong to a lot of different groups. I was having dinner with some very powerful individuals last evening, and your name came up, and dog, man. So your name came up, and what the word was is that Bill's a good guy. He just want to serve. And this is Democrats, Republicans, very wealthy folk, and just movers and shakers.
Mm-hmm.
So, we meet periodically and talk about things we need to talk about. So they were asking me the question, and Mark Walker's name came up too, but that's another story right now. But they talk about you like all you want to do is serve.
That's true.
Now, these are people at a very high, powerful, influential level in Greensboro.
Yep.
Why do people see you as someone who just want to serve?
That's my heart. My ministry is to serve. I was brought up that way by my grandfather, by my dad. Our family has always served, been first responders or in politics to serve. And it wasn't to get a political career. My grandfather was councilman for 27 years. He could have easily gone up and been mayor or Congress, and he just wanted to serve.
What are you going to say to Black Democrats in your district? What do you say to them?
Black is back, baby. Black is back.
That's what I say about President Obama. Black is back.
I learned that from some guy.
Exactly. So you got Black Democrats, you have Black Republicans, you have Black independents, you have white Democrats, white Republicans, white independents. You have the same thing in the Independence Party. How are you going to get these people to vote and support you, Goebel?
They're just going to have to trust and get to meet me. I think the more people I meet, the better it is. And I think people, when I was in the seat for 5 months, they saw the abuse that came on social media and how I responded. And I didn't respond with going against them. I just said, "Hey, you want to sit down, have a cup of coffee and talk about this?" And I'm going to give you an example. This was posted on April 28th, about a year ago, last year. And this was posted on Facebook. "You are a self-serving, self-centered, backstabbing pile of dog crap. Rhino, liar, hypocrite. Guilford County GOP needs to kick you out of the party disloyally. Snake in the grass. You're disgusting." This is all one guy. "Go to bed with dogs. Wake up."
I bet he uses the N-word.
No balls to respond cowardly. "Wow, Democrats are coming out of the woodwork to support you. You must be one heck of a Democrat butt kisser. Super Rhino, you're polyphysiate. party affiliation, pompous, self-centered, narcissistic rhino. Doug Isley is the guy's name. And I'll say, Doug, if you're listening to this, let's go have a cup of coffee.
He didn't call you the N-word. What are you complaining about, baby? What are you complaining about?
He didn't even say anything about your mama either.
Yeah.
Hey, let's close out, but we're going to go with Youngblood. Tell the list first thing, thank you. Thank you for coming on. Absolutely. Can you tell our audience where can they view your documentary? And I know you say it like older people like me know what Vimeo and all that stuff is. We have no idea. So, and if someone want to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing all these things, sir?
Yes. So my movie, Can an N-Word Do Shakespeare, is on Tubi. It's a streaming service that you can download on your app.
How do I spell Tubi, baby? Tubi.
Tubi. Tubi.
Okay.
And I also produced an album. It's like the artist's name is Lorenzo Murphy Jr. Pastor O, he knows a little bit about that backstory. So, but this is like more of a shameless plug because it was, for me, it was a nonprofit album because I really wanted to do something that uplifted the community from a movie perspective, but also from a music perspective.
What's the name of the album?
The New Black Superhero.
Why did you name? Because you had something with names, you know.
So
why New Black Superhero instead of the good looking black guy superhero?
So it's funny because
he didn't want to infringe on your patent.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So
Kelly, you know what, Kelly?
I was
you
doing,
my man.
So I was doing some research on Lorenzo, and he had this. It was during the George Floyd riots or whatever, and Lorenzo Murphy Jr. was in.
I like the term George Floyd peaceful protests.
Oh no! Well, the music video was them actually like going in and like starting stuff. You know.
Okay,
like,
so you say, oh no, we ain't even gonna try to sugarcoat that.
No,
the video is about, hey, we going in there tearing up something, boy.
It was a combination.
Okay,
so yes, we had the peaceful
protest,
but you also had some of the, more
the radical,
radical side of things or whatever. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's the New Black Superhero. Because from my perspective, hip hop musicians, they're more, unfortunately at times, more influential than some pastors. Because unfortunately, the youth, they're not going to the church like they should. And so a lot of times we have these hip hop musicians who are teaching kids the way. And so I wanted to be able to make an album and start a new way of music to where, okay, well, we know that these hip hop artists, they're like superheroes because Black people, we really don't have superheroes. Yeah, we have Captain America, but Captain America is African. He's not Black. He's not Black American like you and me.
I thought Captain America was white. So that tell you, okay.
No, not the Black Panther.
The Black Panther. Okay.
Black Panther is African. He's not African American.
So you get deep into this stuff.
Oh, come on. We got to. Because we got to understand the history and the background of these things. And so I was like, we need to be able to create positive content that's talking about issues like reparations, talking about issues like police brutality, talking about real issues that affect our community and what we can do to empower each other and how we can build with all people. And so that's why I titled it The New Black Superhero. And I actually gave him that name in an Instagram post and he ran with it because actually the title of the album was going to be called Can an N-Word Do Shakespeare? And I just titled it The New Black Superhero, and that's what I donned him. Then he went and then he decided to make the title of his album that.
Let me ask you a question. You're so good with titles or so bad with titles, according to how I want to look at it. What would you title today's show?
Bill and Odell Finding Common Ground.
No. That's crazy. Okay.
They'll come up with, by the time we finish, we come back around to you. So
I think he was going to say, shut up, old head.
Go ahead. Kelly, your thoughts, sir.
On the show?
Oh, just on anything as we
Well,
close.
I'm just surprised you invited me back. I mean,
you're going to continue to be invited back. Listen, I get so much feedback from some of the folks who carry the show to Black audience strictly. They love you, man.
Well, that's good.
Black folk love you.
Do they know he's white?
Yeah, that's the thing about it. They're like, listen, and the guy told me.
Deeper shade of white.
Yeah, but the guy said, you can't tell.
The guy said, you can't tell with Kelly because Kelly just keeps it real. And I'm like, no, Kelly can't be blacker than Odell. Odell got to be the blackest of the black on the show.
I promise you, I'm not going to infringe on your patent on that. I know your lawyers.
Thank you.
And they're mean.
No, it's great to come here and share, Will, have a laugh. I mean, we talked about comedy and how it affects the use of the N-word and comedy as an art. And I always have liked to interject with comedy or wit, and just to try and maybe just dial things down a little bit, because I think that that's a good way of making a point, but doing it lighthearted or kind-hearted, if that's the word. And so, as I said, it's just fun to be here with you guys again, share the golden microphone and hear more about Bill's adventures of being a rhino. And of course, being with you. I mean, come on.
I mean, hey, listen.
The better question is, when are we going to break bread again?
We need to, man, because if just imagine Pretty Ricky. So when I say the term Pretty Ricky, did you two white gentlemen know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay.
I just remember Ricky from Boys in the Hood, and what he was talking about reminded me of Lawrence Fishburne. Do you remember Boys in the Hood? What he was talking about it reminded me of when Lawrence Fishburne was talking to his two kids and about being uplifting and positive role models. And
exactly.
Yeah.
And
I love that movie.
And what
I'm
people
showing my
don't
age.
understand, no, but people don't understand. You have Tim here, who's a producer, and people like, well, a year or so from now, people are going to hear about Tim McCain Entertainment. They're like, where'd he come from? He's an overnight success. No, he's not an overnight success. He's been struggling. He's out here grinding every day. And I got the opportunity to meet this young man, and now he's on our show. So when you hear about him, then remember you heard about him first here. Professor, one more thing, and then I think we have a possible title for today's show.
It's not Kelly Gone Wild, please.
We've had that one before.
Yeah, I like that one.
No, last time it was Kelly and Odell Go Wild.
Yeah. No, this has been a great show. I think I learned a lot. I'd like to delve in some more with Tim about the Black community stepping up, males stepping up and being the heads of their fathers and being supportive, how we support single moms, how we deal with food insecurity areas and health insecurity areas, and redlining, even though people say it doesn't exist or it hasn't or isn't going on. That's a bunch of malarkey. I think we had to have a show about that, Odell.
Yeah, hey, this is the professor. My man said you coming back. So Tim, you're coming back. Now, the only thing about it is if you get the titling of the day's show wrong, then me and my partner got to talk about it. So drum roll, please.
Deconstructing the N-word.
Ooh, I like Deconstructing the N-word. Why'd you come up with that?
Because that's exactly what we're doing. We're analyzing the word. We're understanding the history of the word and the power of the word. Yeah. And also what we can do to disassociate from the word. And that comes along with unity, that comes along with power, and how we can empower ourselves to become a greater power in America. Because when Black America is powerful, America is powerful.
When we work together, nobody can take us on. Nobody can take us on. That's the greatest country in the world.
Really well said, because it's kind of a repeat, but the four of us, and we're not going to solve this word, but at least speaking about it comfortably amongst each other is a good thing.
Last word, Professor.
I wonder if they use the N-word in Africa.
That's a good point.
And we'll leave it at that for someone to ponder. Go Google it and see.
Listen, thank you all so much for coming today, our guests, and the fact that we take on the tough stuff. Audience, I hope that we entertained you, but also pushed you and made you comfortably uncomfortable. Thanks again for joining us, and come back to see the good-looking Black guy. Yours truly.
Find Bill and Odell online at thecommonground.show. This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. All rights reserved.
This podcast is brought to you by Yes Weekly, the Triad's largest circulated and best read weekly magazine. You can also find us online at yesweekly.com and on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Yes Weekly, your trusted news leader for local arts, entertainment, music, food, and more for nearly 18 years.
Whether you're a big, medium, or small business, managing and growing the bottom line is important. Focus CFO brings the experience and financial acumen of a Fortune 100 Chief Financial Officer to your company at a fraction of the cost. P&L help, internal reporting processes, or any business transitions or events. Focus CFO will help you and your team have a CFO in your company's back pocket. Focus CFO. Learn more at focuscfo.com.